What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Pony Lawson and what we like to do is critique tattoos from you the viewer, whether you're a tattoo artist or a collector or someone who just simply enjoys watching tattoos get talked about. That's what we're here for and that's what we're gonna do. Once again, I want to thank everybody for sending in all these emails. We've been getting so many submissions, so if you haven't seen yours yet, make sure you hit that notification bell and subscribe, and hopefully you'll see yours on a future episode. And make sure you stick around to the very end of the video where I give you my favorite tattoo as well as my least favorite tattoo, or as I like to call it, the toilet tattoo. So let's not waste any more time and roll that intro. So the first tattoo brought in to us by the tattoo gods is from Radek. And Radek is from the Czech Republic and they sent in a Mickey Mouse with the word dead on its chest and an upside down cross. It's a little stylized Mickey. Very cool design. So you told me in the email that you put the stencil on in reverse to fit the arm better. However, you didn't write the dead in reverse. So you didn't realize that until you had already outlined it. One of those things I wish you wouldn't have told me because I think it's cool. I think it kind of fits the punk Mickey Mouse vibe. But since you did tell me that, I know it's backwards and I'm gonna talk about it now. These are one of those mistakes that should have been caught by anybody but the client. When the client looks at this tattoo in the mirror, they see it the right way, so I can't put that on them. I have to put that solely on you or anybody else who saw the tattoo ahead of time. If you would have showed this design to somebody on the street, they probably would have asked why the dead is backwards. I don't know how that slipped your mind. Everything else about this tattoo is pretty solid. The black is black, the outlines are pretty good for the most part. There are a couple small little lines here and there that could have, been made better. But for the most part, I dig this tattoo. I like the size and the placement and the vibe overall. It's just very hard to get past that backwards dead. I do enjoy the little sensor bar, the little static bar across the eyes. It does seem like it's not exactly perfectly aligned, but it's cool nonetheless. Yeah, I like the little addition to his earring and his upside down cross on his arm. I think those little things are cool. And to circle back to this word on his chest, I wouldn't have even told anybody that it's backwards. I would just let it ride. So thanks Radek for sending that in. I would just keep that secret between us. Now I'm telling everybody. The next one we've got in is sent by Prawal. Prawal sent in this Native American with his tiger head dress, and there's a few things that I want to talk about in this tattoo. The first thing that catches my eye are the tiger's eyes and them being blue. I've never been a huge fan of adding color to black and white tattoos, and this is mainly the reason why. It kind of distracts from everything else going on, and your eye is kind of drawn to the blue, and it just seems out of place. I would have left that out and just used a regular gray wash for the eyes, maybe make it stand out with a lot of white, something like that, but I think the blue is just unnecessary. When we come down to the smoke of the bottom of the tattoo, I would have just gray washed outlined that a little bit, because it kind of just gets smudgy or lost in his chin area, and I feel like if you would have had a gray wash outline just running through that entire thing, not very dark, just enough to separate the skin from the smoke, and I think that would have been a lot cleaner and a lot more readable. So the details in the necklace look pretty good, so you're okay there. But when we move up and we start to see the shading in the face and the little scratch marks and things like that, it makes me wonder where those scratches are coming from on his mustache area. And also when we go up to his eyes, our left, his right eye, seems a little wonky. It seems like maybe the highlights are too big and the shape of the eyes are different as well. The eye on the left is just a bit different than the eye on the right. His left eye is a little more closed than his right eye, whereas right eye seems like it's a little bit more open on top. I'm not sure that eye is salvageable since it is kind of open too far. I wouldn't try to fix that, otherwise you're gonna end up with a busted eye. Just something to keep in mind. The whiskers are also something that you could have maybe added a very, very, very light gray wash outline, again, just to separate the skin tone from the white, and it would have given a nice clean whisker. And his eyebrows look like two different eyebrows as well. With his left eyebrow, I feel like you could have just brought up a little bit more of that black shading into where the hairs end, because it kind of just seems like there's a bald spot running in between the shadow and where the hairs are. There are a lot of great details in this tattoo. I just think it's unfortunate that your eye is gonna be drawn up to the blue eyes up at the top and kind of taken away from everything that's going on at the bottom. So to reiterate, there's a few things that you could go over. That would be the smoke, the color in the eye, the eyebrows, and the eye. Small things like that would make a huge difference. But thank you very much, Prawal, for sending that in. This next tattoo sent in is from Tom Osvath. So Tom sent in this Spider-Man tattoo with a little bit of New York popping up out of his head. Right away, it seems like you didn't give a lot of time to the cityscape in the background. Rather, you gave a lot more time to the Spider-Man face and getting everything right in him. If this were me doing this, I probably would have busted this into 2 sessions, just because it seems like the Spider-Man face itself was a lot of work, and then you have to tackle this whole entire cityscape on top, which likely would have been a whole other day. Of course, that's not to say that this can't be done in one day, but I do feel like looking at this, I just feel like you didn't give the time necessary, you know, to give the bells and whistles to all these little buildings up top and the background and the fog throughout the city and things like that. There's a little more space left on top of the shoulder that you could have brought some things into, maybe some clouds or sky. And again, this could also be done on another session in the future, but I would have done all those things at once, or maybe add extra details to that cityscape in the future when you add more background to it. It just feels like it's lacking something. I know sometimes tattoos like this can look like the buildings are a little bit warped, but that's usually just because they're sitting on top of the shoulders. So if we were to take this picture from a slightly different angle, that building probably would have looked a lot straighter. Just so you viewers are aware, it's not a crooked building, it's probably just the angle of the photo. A little Dr. Otacon would have been cool up on that building. Is that the right movie?
Dr. Otacon? Who the f is Dr. Otacon?
Octagon? Otagon?
Oh my god.
He's got a bunch of arms.
It's Dr. Octopus.
Damn it, I tried.
Every time a superhero movie gets brought up, Tony. Dude, it hurts my soul.
So Tom sent in Batman. I maybe would have attacked the design a bit differently from the beginning. I would have nixed or omitted those buildings in his eye and maybe just put in a villain, like the Joker or something like that. I'm kidding. My main gripe about this whole tattoo is just the city skyline. Spider-Man's face is okay. I just would have really loved to seen you spend more time on that city skyline. A whole day session almost, just on the city alone. Thanks a lot, Tom. I appreciate you sending that in. Thanks, Tom. So the next tattoo is sent in by Mac, and Mac has been tattooing for roughly 3 years, and Mac sent in this Atlas holding up the world. There's a lot going on here. So it kind of looks like Atlas is holding a basketball, and Atlas's hands are not very appealing, to say the least. He'd likely be a good swimmer with those webbings in between his fingers, but I'm not sure how good of a swimmer you could be with a broken arm. I feel like the entire right side of this tattoo kind of gets lost. It just seems like maybe something's dripping off of his arm, or I really don't know what's going on here. I can tell there's a little heart in a box in the middle of the tattoo with a sword running through it, but as far as the entire right side of the tattoo, I'm honestly lost in what's going on. I'm not sure what these lines are that are running through it or down, and the circle that's coming around the entire body is not done very well, and it's a little scratchy, to be honest, especially when it comes to the end or the bottom part of this circle that wraps around. Some of these lines aren't connected, they're wobbly and wonky. You just really need to pay attention to that consistency that you have going on, because it kind of just seems like you rushed through that part quite a bit. Several other parts in this tattoo I feel the same about. You know, the lines just get thicker in some areas and thinner in some areas, like you've tried to retrace them, or you just started to go out of the lines a little bit and then got back on track. He's really been working out those ribs, huh? Kinda looks like an apple fritter. Not a fan of the inconsistent dots around the entire thing, and some of them aren't even circular, they're kind of just specks. You really need to make sure that those are round and circular instead of just kind of haphazardly poked into the skin. There's a method to it, to not just poking it in, but to actually putting it in the skin and then make a circle and then on to the next one. You really need to take your time with those small things, because these are what, you know, people like me are gonna see and take note of. It just seems like there are numerous lines around this entire tattoo that are not consistent, and the more I look at it, the more I find wrong with it. So make sure you're taking your time before diving into something like this. Make sure you have a great design on paper before you put it on skin. There are a lot of things in this tattoo that I feel like you would have left out had you drawn it on paper first and realized that it didn't read so well. So thanks again, Mac, for sending this in and letting me talk about this on my channel. So this next tattoo is sent to us by Coltrane. Coltrane sent us in this nice little blue frog with a dagger and a fan. It's a pretty cool design. The blues are very vibrant. It's the one thing I love about this tattoo, and it seems pretty solid from what I can tell. It doesn't seem like there's any like skin spaces left open or holidays or anything like that. I do like the line weight you have as well. You've got some nice thicker lines as well as a couple smaller lines in there. Again, we don't see too much of that on this channel, but it's always a pleasure to see. I would have maybe added some shadows or some darker green in his attire, you know, just so it's not flat green. And the same thing could be said about the fan that he's holding. It seems like there's a little bit of shading in the fan, but not enough to actually make a difference. There should maybe be lines that are running down the center of that fan where they make folds, or at least that's where the shade should start, just to give it some sort of dimension, right? Just adding some shadows throughout this entire tattoo would have helped give it, you know, a lot more depth. And it doesn't even have to be much. Maybe just, you know, on that hind leg or underneath an arm here or there, things like that, you know, would have just helped give this a little bit more pop and help make those blues a lot more vibrant. Thanks, Coltrane, for letting me talk about your frog. So this final tattoo is sent in by Gerda from Lithuania. And I really like this tattoo a lot. This tattoo's super dope all around. There's gonna be a lot of things I'm gonna talk about that I like first. The texture that you've got running through the wings, the little, purple dots and the purple textures and the blue running through there as well with a little bit of those golden yellows. Everything works so well. Even the addition of the black and gray shade that you have running through the body complements the colors beautifully. The very light shading of the moon in the background with the uncolored flowers, again, works so well together with the purple in the berries and the greens in the leaves. I do like the bold outlines that you have around the wings of this moth, and then the thin lines that you have in there as well. This is something that I really wish we saw a lot more of on this channel, is just someone who really knows how to control a liner. The thin lines that you have running through these wings here at the bottom are immaculate in complement to these wings that you have on the outside that are just nice and bold and thick and very consistent. To me, if you were to ask, I feel like you've been tattooing for quite some time. If I were to look at a tattoo like this, that's what I would assume. I don't know how long you've been tattooing for, but this is what it looks like. It just looks like somebody who's seasoned and knows what they're doing. The little crescent moons that you have throughout the entire thing, on the back, behind it, and even the little antennas that kind of make a crescent moon shape as well. Beautiful design work. If I were to say anything, I'm trying to nitpick here, I'd say maybe just add a little bit more dark green to those leaves. But I'm honestly just nitpicking because I think you did a great job here. There's not really anything I would add or change. Excellent work. So that does it for this week's tattoos, but before we go, I'd like to give you my favorite tattoo as well as my least favorite tattoo, or which I like to call it, the toilet tattoo. So my favorite this week is from Gerda with this fancy crescent moon moth tattoo. The reason I chose this tattoo for this week's winner is because of the contrast in color and shading, the line work, and the design overall. This thing really has it all. So congrats, Gerda, for being this week's winner. And this week's toilet tattoo award goes to Mac with this Atlas tattoo. Mac, I'm giving you this award for a few reasons. There's just a lot of inconsistency going on throughout this entire tattoo. Design-wise, this thing's kind of just a mess, and a lot of this could have been prevented had you slowed down, taken your time, thought about a lot of this stuff before you actually inked it into the skin. So for those reasons, you are gifted the blessed toilet tattoo. So that's a wrap for this week's tattoos, and once again I want to thank everybody for sending in all their submissions. If you haven't already, you can send them in to ponycritiques@gmail.com. So make sure you subscribe, like, share with all your friends, and more importantly, hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next week. What's up, everybody, and welcome back. Tom sent in a picture of Spider-Man with, where's Spider-Man from? What city? Is it like a make-believe city in there? I don't know. It's Spider-Man. It's fucking. So it is New York City. There's no like fictional city that he's from, like Gotham or anything like that.
Literally from Queens.
Okay.